Have you got the most out of what you're doing right now? This shiny object syndrome is so out there, and I think a lot of people get so distracted. They see a little bit of success. I think really try and do well with what's working and try and squeeze as much out of it as possible.
What are you guys doing that makes you guys better than everyone else?
One of the biggest things I'm putting a huge emphasis on is the people and integrating AI. So I'm just trying to find some of the sharpest people in the world. Our biggest differentiation to other brands is the community element of it.
From a difficult start in sales to becoming one of the first people to take Amazon seriously, today's guest proves that timing and focus can change everything.
Just focus. Where is your focus, right? If you have the few key products that are doing really well, what can you do to really optimize every part of that brand?
Back in 2009, George started his career in Google Ads. One phone call turned into his first client, and soon he was running campaigns that actually delivered results.
And then I accidentally stumbled across a brand. It was literally a phone call. The founder reached out.
Fast forward a few years and George spotted what almost nobody else did. Amazon PPC was wide open.
So she called me actually, like, George, you need to do this. Like, no one's taking Amazon PPC seriously. And I was like, right, okay. People just called and went, I've been looking for someone like you for ages. I'm so glad I found you.
So he bet big on the e-com platform and founded Clear Ads, an agency that's now helped brands scale in the world's biggest marketplace.
We were one of the first to go into programmatic advertising, so that was helping brands. So there were a bunch of people doing it before us with Amazon, but not really focusing on Amazon products.
Join us in today's episode as we explore how to launch successfully on Amazon, why slow growth beats shiny object chasing.
If you start to try and, you had one successful product and then you think, right, I'm going to try and now launch 5 new successful products. If you don't have the resources, your focus is going to be fragmented and you're not going to be able to see the same success.
The right time to diversify into D2C and retail, and what really drives multiples when it's time to sell your brand.
There's a few different things that impact the multiples that I've seen. So one of them is the interest. So who is looking to buy your company?
So if you want the playbook for scaling profitably on Amazon without getting burned, this episode is the one for you.
When you're scaling and when you're seeing success, it's heavy on inventory. It costs a lot to then restock all your products. And one of the biggest killers of any successful Amazon brand is just running out of stock, losing all that momentum, and then trying to start again.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying the videos, why not consider subscribing? We drop bi-weekly content that will help you improve your business right here on the channel. Hey George, thank you for joining me today on the podcast. It is great to have you.
Yeah, honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Cool. I want to get straight into it then. So you're the founder of Clear Ads. You're building an amazing Amazon agency and works with tons of brands across the space. Can you just take me back and talk through your journey and how you ended up where you are today in the Amazon space?
Yeah, sure. So in 2009, I worked for a friend of mine and he had an agency, a Google Ads agency. So worked at his agency. He brought me in straight from university, put me into sales, and I absolutely flopped it. Like, it was so bad. And I just wasn't my thing, right? And there was one guy, I would watch him, an account manager. He would come in, speak to no one the entire day, and literally like just have his headphones in and just plow through whatever he was doing, right, managing these accounts. And I was like, that's the dream. I want to do that. And after a month, I said to my friend, my boss at the time, Simon, is there any chance I could become an account manager? And he said no to a bunch of the sales guys anyway, but he said yes to me. And I knew at that point my life was changed because where Google was going in 2009 was just, there was so much that they were going to do. So got into Google Ads, and the retention wasn't that good at the time with his company. So every time someone went, I would get the best accounts that they had. So I get to choose and then at one point I was there longer than anyone else. So I had like all the best accounts, a diverse range of accounts. So I did that, and then I thought I'll just set up my own company on the side. So I set up my own Google Ads company, but I had it dormant. It wasn't really doing much with it, and then I accidentally stumbled across a supplement brand. I bought some supplements from. It was literally a phone call with the guy because I complained that it came damaged, and the founder reached out, spoke to him, and at the end of the call, I just said, like, how's your Google Ads doing? And he was just like, oh, it's horrible, it's a mess. And I was like, well, I can help you out. And he got started with him and organically grew. And at that point, I was like, right, I need to focus more on this agency. So I left working with Sai. I started doing more of that. And in terms of how I got into Amazon, this is about 8 years ago. I hired this young lady to work with me. And then after a few months, she left because her aim was to go to Google, and I kind of got her there in like a few months. And then after she left Google, a year into leaving Google, she went for an interview at Amazon. And one of the Amazon reps said they're struggling to get any agencies to take Amazon PPC seriously. So she called me actually, like, George, you need to do this. Like, no one's taking Amazon PPC seriously. And I was like, right, okay. So that night, I created a landing page. I said, I'm an Amazon ad specialist. I ran some Google ads to that page. It was 50p a click to get that traffic. And honestly, Jordan, the way conversation started then, it was people just called and went, I've been looking for someone like you for ages. I'm so glad I found you. That's how it started. And it's like literally they just wanted to know how much and how they can sign up. That was it. And it just snowballed from there.
Okay, so it's very different, a much less saturated space than it is today.
Oh yeah, big time.
Okay. Can you just talk through how you kind of learned the skills both on the Google side and then Amazon? Like, how did you get up to speed as a media buyer?
Yeah, so with the Google ads, I mean, I had great people around me to show me how to do it. So I had kind of people to kind of shadow and mimic and so on.
Did you have prior experience before that?
No, I just came straight from uni.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah,
you just
straight
learned
finished
on the job
uni.
in
Yeah,
an
just learned on
ad
the job.
company.
Yeah, so they were teaching me, and then Google at the time it still had some decent resources as well to teach you kind of the basic stuff, and then so that was the start with that. And then when Amazon came out, it was such a baby. Like there was barely any features on there compared to what we had on Google. And like the first one or two brands that I took on, I just said to them, look, I've not done this before. You're going to be one of the first, but I've worked on a far more seasoned platform than yours, than Amazon. So it won't be hard. Like, and I said, look, I'll do free for the first month or two. And then, once we see that there's value in what we're doing, then like we'll add a fee. And then it took a month with both
Okay.
of the brands. And then it just saw a return, and it was like a fraction of the work of what we were doing on Google because you're not having to deal with the ad side like you don't like you do with Google ads, and you're not split testing as many ads as you do on Google at the time with Amazon. So it was just like literally auto targeting, then finding the keywords, and that was it.
Okay. Can you talk through kind of the services that you offer today and how that's evolved over time? So maybe start the other way around. What did you start off offering on
Yeah,
Amazon,
yeah.
and what do you guys do today?
Yeah, so it was primarily Google Ads. So we did Google Ads to start with, and we dabbled and failed horrifically with a bunch of different platforms like Twitter ads, Expedia ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, and then we went into Amazon ads. And when we got into Amazon advertising, we were one of the first, so that really did help because there was kind of a lack of people doing it. So that got us in really well with quite a few brands, and then we went into programmatic advertising a few years later. Again, we were one of the first to go into programmatic advertising. So that was helping brands for kind of targeting Amazon products. So there were a bunch of people doing it before us with Amazon, but not really focusing on Amazon products. So we got into programmatic advertising, which is kind of Amazon's demand side platform. And now we've also started to do, last year we started to do full service. So actually optimizing the product listing, the images, description, and a whole bunch of back end things to ensure that we get the best results for the brands that we work with.
Okay. Why did you take that step last year to go from essentially an ads agency to a full stack and focus on the organic side and other services as well?
Because the other side was having such an impact on the paid ads, it was just becoming ridiculous. Like, it doesn't matter how well your ads run, if you don't have optimized, good creatives and well put together content, um, like you won't get the conversion rates that's needed. And if you're not getting those conversion rates that Amazon needs, you can put as much money as you want through ads. It's not gonna benefit the brand.
Okay. And for that kind of, I guess, organic or other services that aren't ads based, is that just like a one time setup where people can, let's say, put some images live and that's done, or is it something that needs to be optimized and improved over time?
I mean, you should always be testing your images. I think that's one of the big things ecom brands lack is just they'll kind of set it and forget it and leave it. And there's a whole bunch of tools now like PickFu in Tel Aviv. I think there's Product Opinion. I think there's another one as well where you can actually split test your images against what you currently got with something new, and then if it wins, there with kind of real people, then you can kind of replace what you got. So it's all about being different to what's out there. And if you got the same image, similar image to 7 different products, you really don't stand out. So you need to be doing that on a regular basis, but and also looking at the keywords that you're ranking for on Amazon and through paid ads, and then seeing, right, has that been incorporated into the listing? Have you seen any organic uplift in positioning? But yeah, it's more, some brands, they just want to kind of, when they come on, they just want a one-time image revamp, or kind of a one-time, or a month or two of our support. Other times they just want us full-time to basically look after that platform for them.
Okay. And as an agency, what type of brands are you typically working with? And by that, I mean, are there certain sectors, revenue sizes, and stuff
It's
like that?
more revenue sizes, so it's 1 million to about 50 million a year. The brands that we deal with, that's kind of the range that we work with. We're getting more companies now that are not only advertising on Amazon. I think before we were getting quite a lot of brands that just did Amazon and nothing else, but which is encouraging, which is good to a good place to be.
Okay. And then geography wise, I know you're based in the UK. Is it mainly UK businesses or is it?
No, it's mainly US. We
Okay.
barely have anything in the UK or Europe.
Okay. Why is that? Is that, the US is a bigger market and bigger Amazon
Much bigger
always?
market. It's just huge, and there's so much more opportunity there. I mean, all the new features that Amazon releases always comes out in the US. So us being a UK, if we focus mostly in the UK, then we'll be so late to a lot of the new updates that are coming. So like, we just focus in the US, and UK, we do get a few brands come through, but it's mostly US.
Makes sense. I know you've been, a big player in the Amazon space for a long time now. I want to talk about kind of the platform and your views on growth. If there's a brand that's coming to you, are there certain criteria that you would look for to kind of tick off as they're going to crush on Amazon? And I guess vice versa as well. There's certain brands that you would avoid.
It's a terminology that's used within Amazon space quite a bit, which is a product being retail ready. I mean, that's the most important thing, right? Is this product good enough that people want it, right? If it's unique enough and has a compelling offer that people will buy it, then it's going to be a home run, right? And there's some accounts that we look at, they've got barely any campaigns running, really badly structured, lack of stuff tested, but they are just flying because their product is so good, right? And when we find brands like that, then it's going to be kind of a win-win. Now, on the flip side, brands that we would just avoid is the products that are just similar to everything else. It's the same as what's being sold. There's no real big offering. It's just something that's been purchased from China and brought in, and they're hoping that they're going to sell well. Even if they're selling well for now, like, it's only going to be a countdown until a few manufacturers from China kind of see the opportunity, come in at a lower cost, and then it's just a fight to the bottom in terms of pricing. So yeah, so they're the kind of brands we would avoid.
Okay. And then there's certain kind of other qualifications you'd look at, like maybe certain categories that you like or don't like, gross margin levels,
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
like that.
So consumable products tend to be really good because they have more margins in them, and they have a higher lifetime value. So there's just more budget to play with, and you can become more creative, especially when you're doing DSP advertising. So you can be targeting those who may have purchased the product but haven't subscribed, or you can target those who have purchased your competitors' products about a month ago, 2 months ago. So they might be looking to replenish vitamin C supplement. So putting your ads in front of them is likely to kind of turn into something. So that's the kind of brands we like to work with.
Okay, makes sense. And then let's imagine a scenario where, there's a new business, maybe they've just started or they've been selling on Shopify or, in retail. They're looking to launch on Amazon. How do you recommend they get started?
I mean, this is the one big thing that we have, Jordan, that the other platforms don't have. Because Amazon owns the entire buying process, we can actually see exactly what terms convert what volume per week, right? So we can gauge, okay, for this particular product, we can figure out what are the terms that we want to start targeting first. So you don't want to go for the main obvious high converting terms that are going to have an insane amount of competition behind them. You start with the long tail terms that have a good amount of sales, but not that many that might have been missed by a whole bunch of brands. Right, we start there, and because it's long tail as well, it teaches Amazon what the product is, and it works. It's a good signal for Amazon as well. So we focus on those terms, and once we get sales from those terms, and we're getting the amount, so we can be we are very calculated, and we will understand. Okay, with these 5 terms, we need X amount of sales and add to carts per day, per week, in order to help us organically position higher for those terms. Now, once we hit certain thresholds in terms of organic positioning, sales, and add to cart, then we'd move into another phase of the terms. So terms that are not as long tail, not as focused, but get higher volume, but still relevant. So we have like 4 or 5 phases we create on any launch strategy.
Okay, so am I correct in saying that you're starting with ads first, and then kind of organic next?
Yeah, so you need to make sure that with the product, the listing is well put together. So you want to be as descriptive as possible, and you can use tools like Helium 10 Cerebro, like where you can find the top 10 products in that particular niche that's positioned organically well, or you can even use Data Dive, right? And they're 2 tools I really kind of would recommend, and it will give you a really good idea. Okay, how have they put their content together? What are they organically ranking for? What do all 10 have in common in terms of the keywords that they're ranking for? Because whatever they have in common, this is going to be a really good term. It's going to generate a lot of sales. And that's going to give you a really good idea. We even have a chat GPT that's created that'll do most of this work, do most of the heavy lifting. It'll figure out, okay, this is what you should have in your title, this is what you should have in your bullet points, this is what you should have in a description, and these are the keywords you should have in the back end. So there's that fundamental part you need to put in place. Um, because and now Amazon is trying to understand the entire listing. They're trying to understand what it is. So you can't really just stuff keywords like you did before. They really need to kind of know a lot more about the kind of the given product. So we start there, then we run the PPC ads, and then that's going to give us good insights. Okay, what terms for some reason do we convert higher than the average? Where we have a higher conversion delta. And then once we understand what those terms are, then we make sure that we incorporate those terms so that we can organically position high for them.
Am I correct in saying, based on that kind of keyword research that you do, and I'm assuming you know roughly what our conversion rate to expect, can you kind of forecast out revenue for a new brand pretty accurately?
I mean, the big issues we can, but not accurately, because the first few weeks are going to be really important with the product launch, right? Because if in the first few weeks, let's just say the product was damaged and there was something faulty within that product, right? And you launch, and after 2 weeks, we then start to get a ripple of bad reviews, right? That's going to tank everything, right? So regardless of what we thought we were going to get, the moment you see the bad reviews pop up, it's basically the listing's dead. You can't really do much. Or if it starts to average a 4 rating or anything under 4, then it's going to impact revenue. So the first few weeks are going to be really important. Can you keep a high review count? Can you keep a good, compelling kind of offer to kind of maintain it? And to go back to one of your questions earlier about brands that we love to work with and we see that is going to likely to do well, is those brands that have experience with manufacturing the products and distributing the products, right? If they have an understanding and they're obsessed with the product quality, that's going to see them through a long way. If someone is just sourcing from somewhere they've never went to visit, they've never been to the factory, they don't know what they're getting, they're blindly trusting someone to provide a high quality product, then again that's gonna make us skeptical.
Just on that point of reviews, is there a way you can essentially manipulate that and kind of send in positive feedback? And if not, are there kind of other levers that you can pull to help with a launch?
I mean, there was in the past, but Amazon's really clamped down on it. So I've heard some horror stories, Jordan. There was one brand, a friend of mine, his friend's brand, were about to exit for 60 million, and just as they were finalizing the deal, Amazon found something that violated their policy 2 years ago, and they just shut the account down just before the deal was going to go through. So because of that, the deal just didn't go through. And I think they got the account up in a few weeks later, but still, it just shows you like how careful you have to be. I mean, we just had one person in our ecosystem now, 8-figure brand. Um, they basically what they did is you can get a bunch of child variations of an ASIN, do Vine reviews, get like 30 reviews per child ASIN, and then you can just merge all of those child ASINs into one main product, right? So you have loads of different colors or sizes or whatever. They did that on another account. Amazon flagged it as they're taking advantage, and then they shut their main account down, and it's been shut down for weeks, and they've just had it back up again now. So
Okay.
just something I would say, just be cautious with that. And the best way to get good reviews is just obsess about the product, obsess about it. I mean, there's a few people that we work with that absolutely crush every time they launch because they spend so much time trying to perfect the product and get it to where it's better than everyone else's. I mean, if you ask brands how many have bought the top 5 competitor products and tested them against theirs, like not many would say they have.
Okay. So it's kind of do the stuff that doesn't scale and stay white hat and just focus on kind of product and experience.
Yeah, and that's what we'd recommend. Yeah.
Okay. And then in terms of, when you're looking or maybe doing some kind of product research, how do you view having kind of competition? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
I mean, there's little signals that we look at, right? So if you see there's a new niche, right, and let's just say I mean, like 70% of the brands on there are less than a year old, and they all have, and let's just say 20 brands make up most of the sales. That's a healthy sign, right? However, if you got one or two ASINs that generates 80% of the sales, they've been around for 5-6 years. It's a bigger battle to face to try and break in. So some of the signals that we look at in terms of trying to break into a new market.
Okay. And if you are up against like big, strong incumbents that have been there for a while, what's the best way to kind of battle them? Is it to come up with a slight variation on the product, or is it to try and beat them on marketing, or what would you recommend?
I mean, the beautiful thing about Amazon is they do not care about any brand, right? So a mum and pop's shop could basically compete against Nike on Amazon, and they don't care. All they look at is the conversion rates, right? Does this new product have a higher conversion rate than what's now currently winning, right? If they have a higher conversion rate, everything else is made easier. So when you push paid ads through certain keywords, they will start to organically rank because they have a higher than average conversion rate. So it all comes down to the offering. Now, some of the things to bear in mind on the other hand is there's going to be big brands that people are always going to buy, like laundry detergents and stuff. They're going to buy the big brands that they're aware of. So that's always going to have a higher conversion rate. But if you can come with a compelling enough offer that you're able to win that sale. And that's what you have to think about. Would you buy your product compared to someone else's? And maybe asking those questions to those who are not your parents or your loved ones are going to just be biased. And if you would, then test it out, test the market. What kind of conversion rates do you get? Because you get to see it, you can compare. I mean, there's tools out there like Data Rover. You can put a particular keyword in and goes, right, the average conversion rate for that keyword is 40%. What are you getting? If you're getting 20%, then like it's bad. So that's going to be, you've got good data to back up.
So we've talked now about kind of launching products. What about scaling? What should brands do to scale on Amazon?
Good question. The first thing they need to do is find all the keywords that are relevant to the product they're selling, and that they don't position well for organically. Once they find all those keywords, they need to push those terms and get and get them organically positioned well through sponsored product ads. Once you've really saturated that, you need to then try and push as hard as you can sponsored brand ads. Once you've done that and you've pushed sponsored brand ads, then that's when you would try some. You would do outside traffic like Amazon's demand side platform, DSP ads, and you would push. You would push targeting those who might be interested in the products that you have but haven't purchased yet. Also, there's only so many people on Amazon who s- who search for your product. So there's levels where there's times when we've seen brands have completely hit the ceiling when it comes to keyword targeting, and that's when uh, TikTok ads, social media ads, Google ads is going to be a really good vehicle to get external traffic into Amazon to get even more sales, and that's going to send incredible social signals to Amazon. That's going to help kind of create a moat around the product.
Okay, just double tapping on that point then. So you recommend kind of running external traffic to Amazon?
Yeah, absolutely. But I would always say when it comes to Google Ads, hold tight first. Like prove the concept, right? If on Amazon you're crushing with the keywords, right? That's the easiest place to win because Amazon is a platform where people are coming with a high intent to buy, and if they're purchasing there, right, then the chances of them purchasing from Google is gonna there's a chance you will get something, right? And we have to remember Google is a search engine, and it's people more looking for information than ready to buy. So you're not going to get the same type of ROAS as you would through Amazon.
Okay, and is it kind of almost, focus on maxing out Amazon before you start looking at some of these other traffic sources?
Yeah,
Okay. Pulling it back to what you said a few minutes ago, you talked about kind of 3 platforms on Amazon for advertising. Can you just highlight kind of the key differences between them and at what stage you should use each one of
yeah.
them?
So sponsored product ads. That's where you should start. That's kind of it's the main boxes you see of the products when you search on Amazon and you get those results and they have the sponsored little sign at the bottom. They are the kind of 70% of your ad spend should really go through them. 20% should go to sponsored brands, around 20%. And the reason why we say that is we tend to take the terms that have converted really well and the product targeting and category targeting has done well through sponsored product ads, and then we then use that through sponsored brand ads. And with sponsored brand ads, you take up more space. You can be quite creative with images. You can add custom headlines, and you also got the option to do video ads as well. But there's only so much real estate, right? There's probably going to be one or two ad slots per search results page compared to sponsored product ads that has like 20 or 30. Like it's going to be harder to compete and get on those get on there as much as sponsored product ads. But that's kind of the approach. And then display ads, you really want to do that later on because it's invasive advertising, right? It's not like people ain't looking for your product and wanting to buy like they are with keyword targeting. They are you're putting the product in front of them. So you need to have a compelling enough offer for them to then go, right, I'm going to stop what I was looking for or what I was doing to buy.
Okay. The sponsored brand ads, are they more expensive than the kind of first option for the search?
It varies. It depends the type of keywords you target. I mean, because it works with real time bidding. It depends on the type of keyword you target. It depends on the time of day your ad serves. It depends on the time of year. There's a whole range of things that can impact the cost.
Okay. And then the DSP ads, where does that kind of fit in? Is that just interrupting someone that's searching at any point in their journey, or where do they come up?
So this is where it gets fun, right? Because with DSP ads, you can actually create real custom audiences. So you have to understand Amazon has the best data on shopping behavior in the world, right? No one has richer data than Amazon, right? And they own everything. It's all first party data, right? They're not buying it from anyone. They're not trying to guess. It's all their information. So if someone's just bought um, a stroller or a pram, I'd like to call it, like depending where you are in the world, right? Then you know that they're about to have a child, right? So if you sell nappies, diapers, right, then it that is a highly relevant product for someone who might not even know they need that product just yet, right? If someone has a deficiency in a supplement or and there's symptoms where if they're searching for certain types of products, you know they're probably deficient in X vitamin D or vitamin C, whatever. You can then serve ads to them. So you can be very, very creative with DSP. And actually, what's really interesting is you can create audiences of those who have purchased your product, and you can put it through something called an overlap report. And Amazon will find for you from their data what other audiences is available that matches the people who have purchased your item. And this stuff always like throws us off, right? There's some audiences we never thought have any relationship with those who buy the product, and they do. And this gives you even more insights that you can play on through other types of advertising off Amazon.
Okay. Outside of kind of these three ad services, as you scale, what should you be optimizing and testing as a brand?
It's all the small things. I think the biggest thing we notice is just tracking profits. Like I think that's the biggest thing we find with brands. It's like there's a lack of profit being monitored, and when you're scaling and when you're seeing success, it's heavy on inventory, right? It costs a lot to then restock all your products, and then one of the biggest killers of any successful Amazon brand is just running out of stock, losing all that momentum, and then trying to start again. So you want to make sure you have a really well put together financial structure so you understand, okay, what are your margins, what are you projected to spend, what do you need to spend, have that forecast in place to really understand, okay, if I'm going to be at a loss for the next few months on this new product that I've launched, how long is it going to be? Do we forecast before we get out of it? And also just focus, right? If you start to try and, you had one successful product and then you think, right, I'm going to try and now launch 5 new successful products. If you don't have the resources, your focus is going to be fragmented and you're not going to be able to see the same success. I'm a big believer in slow growth. Like my agency's been going 14 years. I'm slower than most. I'm not the smartest person, so I needed that time. But like with a lot of brands as well, I always emphasize like, why grow fast? Like, why try and get in there so quick? Like, why not just perfect what you're doing? And there's always little gaps and little holes. Doesn't matter. I mean, we talked to a whole bunch of big brands, right? And there's always things that are missed.
Okay. You've kind of half answered my next question, but it was going to be, I'm assuming at some point scaling vertically, that has diminishing marginal returns, and maybe people should stop thinking about scaling horizontally. What are your thoughts on launching new products, and at what point should people look at doing that?
You want to make sure you've really kind of done the best and the most with the product that you have, right? Because that's the one that's going to be generating you the most return, or the handful of products. Once you've got that, I think the second thing you should consider doing is look at variations, right? What if you created a smaller supplement count of that product, or smaller sizes, or more high volume sizes? What if you provided some more colors to whatever product you're selling? So look at the variations, because when you go down a variation route, right, you can then put it into that parent ASIN and you could piggyback off the already established reviews, right? You can deal with the same manufacturer, which is almost going to guarantee that higher quality product, right? So there's so much you can do within that. So once you've got that established, it pushed and generate more sales, then if you were to launch, is there a similar item that you could sell that complements what your bestseller is, right? So if you sell, I'm always going to give, like, let's just say you sell a protein snack bar, right? If you sold a milk chocolate version, why not then consider doing a dark chocolate version, or hazelnut? Because you don't want to go off completely to something different where people aren't likely to buy, because then you can re-advertise to those who are happy with the existing main product to then consider buying the other product too.
Okay. And is there a way to test the demand or the potential demand for any of these new products or variations?
Yeah, so there's a few tools. So Amazon have actually been really helpful as well in the last few years. So there's Product Opportunity Explorer, so you can put a certain keyword into that tool. It's all built in Seller Central, Product Opportunities Explorer, and it will give you insights such as the traffic volume, what kind of growth there's been for that traffic volume. You can even click further to go in and see, okay, how many new people have entered the market in the last 6 months, right? Out of those new people that have entered this particular type of product, how many have actually made more than $50,000 a month in sales? What was the ratio of success, right? So it gives you all this information. That's just Product Opportunity Explorer. That, I mean, there's going to be a whole range of other tools that you can use to look at, okay, where is there opportunities and gaps?
Final question on this kind of Amazon growth specific piece. What would you say are the biggest challenges brands face when trying to grow on Amazon? And are there kind of common mistakes or misconceptions that you see kind of slowing people down across the board?
Yeah, so the biggest external challenges that's beyond most sellers' control right now, and this is quite fresh, and I'm sure you've heard about it, Jordan. It's all over LinkedIn. Is the tariffs and how their costs have gone up so much. So again, it's the margins being eaten. Amazon introducing storage fees a few months back. That's had a huge impact on costs, and it all just chips away with how much brands how much brands have to pay. So that's been probably the biggest external influence on the success of most brands recently.
Okay, and what advice would you give to brands that are facing potential headwinds with tariffs?
I think now's the time to be creative. There's going to be there's going to be a bunch of people who specialize in this area in terms of, okay, what can you do to minimize the amount you pay on your tariffs legally, and being creative. There's going to be all the big brands do it. They might open up an entity in Hong Kong and have that as their main place of trading, and do lots of creative things there to ensure that they can bring it down, because those few percentages, they're going to make a huge impact on margins. I also would just recommend, especially with this news, just don't panic just yet. Speak to other people in the space. Speak to those who are sharp and doing really well, because they're going to have some strategies in play right now as we speak to minimize their waste and ensure that they make it through this. But with this law, I mean, there's a whole bunch of good things that are coming out, because there's one trading law right now where people like the Chinese brands, they're able to ship into the US anything under $800 without any duty fees and that's going to get eliminated. So that's going to take off a whole bunch of bad players from the space. So it may seem like doom and gloom. I mean, just stick it through. And I think this is where we go back to Jordan. Just focus. Where is your focus, right? If you have the few key products that are doing really well, what can you do to really optimize every part of that brand? What could you do within the listings? Is it at its best? Are you really standing out? Have you got everything optimized? Are you keeping a really close eye on profits um, and tracking it? If you're doing that, all of those things well, and you're able to ride this storm, because a lot of brands won't, right? They will have everything all over the place, and they'll come out, and then what then happens, right? There's a lack of competition. The demand's not going to be impacted. Actually, Amazon is now doing so much more. I mean, they've just opened up their ad platform for people to use outside of Amazon, right? So Amazon have also now introduced a revolutionary way of people paying affiliates to pay to get traffic to their website. So they've opened up to the big brands now, right, where they pay them per click. So you know how the modern way is you get paid for every sale that's made. They've actually Amazon are so keen to get more traffic. They're going to pay some of the bigger media agencies to just bring traffic.
I want to kind of step back from just the sole Amazon piece now and talk about brand strategy in general. So, how do you view kind of brands? Should they go all in on Amazon, or is it part of kind of a wider omni-channel strategy? What are your thoughts there?
That's a good question. I mean, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous game going all into Amazon. So dangerous. I mean, there's been so many brands that we worked with where like they've had their account shut off, right? And it might be something that they did that was naughty, or it could be something that it was just a misunderstanding, or a black hat attack where another company basically could report that product is a dangerous good, and then until Amazon can resolve that issue, they can shut your account down. And there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. And even now, they're moving to AI case logs, right? So you're gonna have to talk to a bot before you can even speak to a real person. And those AI case logs can shut down whatever questions that you had before. They can shut the case down before you even speak to someone. So it's so important. And another big thing with Amazon as well is you don't own your clients. So I'll share one story with you. We got this one guy we work with, absolute legend. Like his brand's just growing. One day he calls us up and he just said, he's so relaxed. He goes, George, I'm gonna have to stop doing DSP with you. And we're like, dude, what's wrong? And he went, we were testing some grey stuff with another account. It linked to our account. Amazon said, "What are you doing?" And they just shut us down. And this is they're doing 7 figures a month on Amazon, right? And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, dude. Like, I'm really sorry to hear that." And so yeah, and they said we're probably never going to get that account back up, but hey, it's fun. Yeah, and what can you do? And I was like, oh, "I'm sorry. I wish you all the best. I hope you can things get better." Nine months later, he calls me, "Hey George, we're ready to get the SP back up." I was like, "Dude, tell me what happened." And he goes, "Oh, yeah, they just sent us back on." And he was so relaxed. I said, "So what happened?" He went, "George, the funniest thing happened, right?" He goes, "All of those sales he used to get on Amazon now came through directly to his website." So, and when he turned Amazon back on, he got all the sales he used to get back, but he's got all these brand new sellers on his website. So it's like because he just had that insurance policy, he had the website, he owned the email lists, he was able to re-engage with those who bought in the past, which he can't do now on Amazon. He was able to diversify, and um, when it comes to also selling your brand, it has an impact as well on multiples. This is what I'm hearing as well. So if you're on different marketplaces and you have your own website too.
Okay. So do you recommend kind of brands get to a certain size on Amazon and then build out, a Shopify, go into retail or stuff like that?
I mean, retail is a different beast. I couldn't even speak much on that. I think you're gonna have to really network and find the right people to help you there. But there's never any harm in getting into retail because it's gonna spill over. People are gonna end up making their way to Amazon, even if they're in a retail store. So if you can get in there, I wouldn't say do Amazon first and then try everything else out. I think if you're seeing some success on Amazon, I mean, network, meet the people, see if there's any opportunities to get into Walmart or Target or Kroger, any of those shops.
You talked about focus though as well, and I'm just wondering, is there a certain kind of revenue threshold or some kind of number that you could maybe pull out of thin air where it makes sense to start diversifying or thinking about it?
I mean, have you got the most out of what you're doing right now? I mean, this shiny object syndrome is so out there right now, and I think a lot of people get so distracted. They see a little bit of success before they really max that out. They move on to something else, and they get distracted. I think look at how much sales are you doing for your product in that given marketplace. Would you say you're one of the best sellers there? Would you say you have one of the best products going? If so, then can you take that product and go somewhere else? Because let's just say you have the bestseller badge on Amazon, right? If you go to, I mean, like there's like the big food expo in California called Expo West. If you go there and you can show some of the retailers, hey, look, I'm a bestseller on Amazon, right? That's gonna give you more weight, an argument to get onto some of the shops, or at least be tested in a few of their stores. So get really good in one platform. And there might be some people listening to this who have absolutely smashing it outside of Amazon, right? So see how far you can push it. But what we find is those brands that are smashing it outside of Amazon, there's always a spillover of their brand onto Amazon. And if they're not on there, just the basics, just to protect their brand, then they might be missing out on a bit. So get on there too, I would recommend. But like, I think really try and do well with what's working before, and try and squeeze as much out of it as possible.
Okay.
And then if you want to go to something else, ensure you have the right resources to do that.
Okay. This may be a chicken or egg kind of question, but if you're at that crossroads and you think you've maxed out returns with your one product, what would you look at first? Would it be launching another product or variant, or looking at other channels?
I mean, look at the demand. Just you can see on Amazon as well whether there are searches that spill off of what you're doing and what you're selling. So I would say just take a look at is there opportunities for variations. There's going to be way more than other products. And I think if you're on Amazon, to go off Amazon, it's probably going to be a little bit harder to gain that traction outside, because Amazon doesn't let you take those reviews out of Amazon to other places to give you that social proof. But if you're growing really fast and you're one of the only people and you're new to market, like the product that you have, and there's like a massive amount of opportunity, that might be a time to see to see other kind of going into other marketplaces, especially if those opportunities are coming to you. I wouldn't kind of want to just reject them, if that makes sense.
No, it makes complete sense. I want to kind of end this Amazon section off by just talking about exits and kind of multiples. Two-part question. Firstly, how active are you seeing the market being now in, we're filming this in April 2025. And secondly, what are you seeing in terms of kind of multiples compared to historically?
There was a few years back when you had a lot of the big aggregators who were just getting raising hundreds of millions of dollars in this space, and you should have seen them, Jordan. They would come to these events and they would throw money everywhere. I mean, they would just spend money, and they were buying brands for multiples of 4, 5, 6, right? And and when the biggest one, Thrasio, they went out of business, and that kind of showed just like this big aggregator that was buying all these brands didn't know how to manage what they had. It just became a mess, and it blew up. So a whole range of other aggregators do the same thing, and that had a huge impact. So people are way more cautious about the brands they buy, especially now also with the amount of brands that are like they get shut down because they've been doing something that's against Amazon's policies. It just makes it more risky, and ultimately it's that element of risk, right, that is higher. So you've gone from seeing 4, 5, 6 multiples to 2, 2.5, and I think there's a few different things that impact the multiples that I've seen. So one of them is the interest, right? So who is looking to buy your company, right? So if the product that you're selling is going to complement the brand that wants to buy your product, right? There's going to be opportunities to cross sell. There's going to be opportunities to make some easy money and grow the brand quickly. Then you might get a higher multiple. So that's one thing to bear in mind. Another thing is your total turnover. It's harder to build 1 10 million a year brand than it is to find and buy 10 1 million a year brands and try and make them all work together, if that makes sense. So when you hit certain thresholds, you're going to see higher multiples too. So I mean, like there's one brand that we worked with. They actually sold to Thrasio, and then they were an 8-figure brand. And I was speaking to the guy who founded it last month, and he was telling me he wants to buy it back off them, but they won't let him buy. They're one of the very few brands that they've just held on to. When they like even when they sold that brand, their second bestseller went out of stock. Till this day, they have not replenished that second bestseller, and they're still growing. And that's
Insane.
just like that's just what happened. So, but yeah, it's an interesting space, and I think this goes on to like the importance of diversifying, because when you get your brand known outside of Amazon and you get it across different platforms, then there's gonna it gives you more weight and credibility when selling, and that's one thing we've seen that's had a positive impact on the multiple
Okay.
brand get. I mean, we've got one brand at the moment. Um, I think they're looking to exit at the end of the year, and they're on Nordstrom, Macy's, and Target, and they're building fast on those platforms. Just so it has a strong impact on their multiple, because they can say, look, this is the growing revenue we're seeing on these other platforms outside of Amazon.
Okay. I want to talk now a little bit about kind of you guys and the business that you've built. Can we kick off with a comment you've made before about how competitive the space is? How do you position your agency to kind of stand out, and what are you guys kind of doing that makes you guys better than everyone else?
But this is the hard thing, Jordan, that's been on my mind for the last 18 months. If I'm honest with you, just being completely transparent here, this space is becoming more of a commodity. Right? Why go to one agency and not the other? There's a lot of agencies that don't know what they're doing, but there's a few who know what they're doing really well, and they're growing too. I think one of the biggest things I'm putting a huge emphasis on is the people and integrating AI and the way things are moving in that space. So I'm just trying to find some of the sharpest people in the world, because one of the big things I noticed is most agencies that are out there, they have one, two, maybe three A players, and then the rest are okay. And I'm trying to make it so that like, everyone's an A player, everyone is sharp, everyone is adopting all the new AI tools that are coming out. They're absolutely crushing and actually doing their best. Everyone wants to work. Everyone's keen to learn. They have the energy, the enthusiasm, because that oozes off to the clients as well. So
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do. Which we're really people focused, but we're really community focused as well. So we're building a really good reputation in the space of bringing good brands together. So
Hmm.
effectively, they can use our services, but we also want to connect those who are doing well with others. So I mean, our biggest differentiation to other brands is the community element of it. So we're really building a community of brands, primarily doing more than 5 million a year. So I mean, we noticed a big gap
Yeah.
where there's not any events focused around brands doing over that amount.
Okay. So on that community point, I think you might have answered it there, but what does that community look like? Is it events? Is it, Slack groups? Is it calls? What does it look like?
Yeah, I mean that was really by accident. I went to quite a few events in the last few years, and one of the big issues that I was finding is one, those events were saturated with a lot of service providers, so the brands weren't able to speak to other brand owners. I'm one of them, but anyway, but then the second thing is there was a lack of big brands and people knowing who they are, and I get about like I've been to these like events like that all the time, so I get to know who's doing what on Amazon and etc. So just for fun, I could see that this was an issue. So I would just bring a bunch of these bigger brands, take them to lunch, take them to dinner, and they would just say, "Wow, this is like probably been the most valuable thing from this event or from attending this thing that you got." And then I thought, right, one year I was like, "What if we did an event?" So what I did is I invited the biggest brands that I know to London. We had about 18, 19 brands, and I said, look, you have to provide the content, you have to share what's worked well in your business. And it went really well. And then every year we've done this event, it's just been growing and growing. And this is something we don't publicly talk about, publicly put out on our website. We don't advertise it. It's all word of mouth. We've just got grown and like, even like this, I mean, we're fully booked up for the one in September now. So like, there's not even any, and he said, and we don't really want to grow it that much because we're really looking for depth of relationships. As we're supposed to kind of trying to get out to everyone because there's a few people who are sharp and just the speed of AI and where it's going, I just really want to make sure we got our finger on the pulse on that. So I
Okay.
really want to make sure that we're leveraging all these tools to our benefit to make sure that we don't get left behind because there are going to be a bunch of agencies that are just going to not adopt and fall behind. And there's going to be some agencies who are going to leverage all of these
Yeah.
great features that AI brings. And one person's going to be able to do what 15, 20 people were doing last year.
I want to circle back to what you said about people. I know you've brought a couple of partners into the business. Can you just talk to the kind of roles that they play and why you decided to bring what are some super impressive people into the business?
Yeah, so that was quite unusual, and I think everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. I think one of my biggest strengths is I'm not the smartest, I'm not the sharpest, I'm not the fastest when it comes to kind of like thinking on my toes, but I'm really good with people, and like I've go to a lot of events and I met really sharp people, and I could tell by how others engage with them, what they say, like okay, who's actually talking real sense, and who's talking from experience, and who's just like waffling, right? So going to these events, I kind of bumped into these people, and there's one guy like he's my business partner now, and he's probably one of the most exceptional people I've ever met in the space. Who every time he spoke at events would just blow everyone away, and I mean that was just a moment where I just said, you know what, I'm just going to ask and see what happens. I said, hey, look, what would it take for someone like you to come and work with me? And I caught him at the right time, and he said yes, and that's I mean I can. It's been a huge blessing, one of the biggest blessings having him. And then when you bring someone like that in there, eyes are on you, and that in itself, I think, has just shifted the positioning of our brand because everyone like we were seen as the nice guys. Oh, he's a nice guy. Ah, they've been around for, but oh, yeah, they're lovely people. But now it's like, oh wow, they got someone that level, that caliber. And then another friend of mine who is I've known for a few years in the space, really sharp, built up a mid 8-figure brand with his partners, and then when he realized who he brought on, and then he went right, okay, how can I get involved? What I basically said, would you like to get involved? As a joke one day on a call on a Saturday, and he went, I actually would, and I was like, are you being serious? I said, yeah, right. What would it take to have you on? He told me, I was like, right, I'm going to draft that contract this afternoon. And he goes, okay, sure. We did it. And like by Monday, I was like, team, this guy's coming on now. And they're like, what the heck? Like, where did that come from? So just able to just like move fast with these guys as well, because they're not going to be around long.
Yeah. How do you find and build those relationships with those kind of top tier people?
I think it's just for networking and meeting people. I mean, they're not going to go for a job interview. Like, I mean, they have like 5 or 6 projects going and they are going really well for them, right? So they're not going to then go, hey, I've got 5 or 6 amazing projects going right now. I'm going to go on Indeed and search for a job. Like, you have to put yourself in their shoes. Like, these are the kind of people that are not going to be interested by the money, or they're not going to be interested by they're going to be interested in where can they get. I think it's the stimulation. Like, where can they get stimulated? Where can they be looking at different products and looking at things that they could test on a wider scale than what they have with the 2 or 3 brands that they're working with. And I think that's what we brought to the table. But when you go to these events, you start to figure out who they are, and then you get the signals. And I think I shared with you, Jordan, the last time we spoke, how I've tried to take this to a more structured approach. So what I do now is I always ask anyone I speak to, like, who's the sharpest person you know in the space? Did I tell you about that?
It's
Yeah.
a
So
winning strategy, right?
yeah, so who's the sharpest person you know in the space? And then when they tell me who they are, I find them on LinkedIn and I say, look, Jordan's basically said you're one of the sharpest people he's ever worked with. Would love to jump on a 15-minute call with you. I'm trying to build the brightest. I'm trying to bring the brightest people into my ecosystem and potentially even work with us. Would love to just get your feedback. Now, when I jump on a call with these guys, I'm not offering them a job, because they're going to be somewhere they're happy. They're going to be somewhere where they're doing fun things. They're not jackpot, but you don't want to go in and just like try and sell that, like what you're trying to do. But I just go in and say, right, what would it take for someone like you to move over to an agency like ours? What would it take regarding financially being compensated? What else outside of finances would make this attractive for you? And I ask them all these questions. What are you seeing as the biggest opportunities in the space? What are you fearful of or mindful of in the space? And then after that, I ask them, okay, who else do you know in the space that has been the sharpest people you've ever worked with, or is one of the sharpest minds? They give me a list. I go through that list, and I've just got a Google sheet now of people. And what happens after a little while, Jordan, and this happened by accident, is you start to get social signals. So the same name keeps cropping up, right? So when you have 4 or 5 people say that's the best data person I've ever worked with, right? Then you know this is someone who's worthwhile, right? And I think this is where you could be so different with your interviewing process. I think it's done so wrong, right? Because what we do is we test for competence, right? And then we get the social proof later, right? We could have the social proof at the beginning, and then you just confirm the competence at the end, and then cultural fit. So that's the approach I've taken now, and I'm just consistently now just, even though we don't have any jobs going right now, we will open up a position for someone if the right person comes along.
When you told me that, it just changed the paradigm of how I think about hiring,
Mm.
and I think it's a great perspective. One question I did have on the kind of partners and people that you work with: how are you with, obviously, they've got multiple projects that they're working on, like you said. How are you finding like balance for that, like managing time and energy? And do you have kind of other ventures that you're involved in as well?
Okay, so I'm going to answer the latter because it's quicker to answer. So no, for me, right? I have one focus, and it's the business. And I deviated away from it and tried to do a few other side projects, but I just kind of cancelled everything, and I'm focused completely on this. Um, I've learned over the years now, you can only really do one thing well, regardless of who you are. And like, if I'm if I don't have some of the advantages that other people have, and some of the skills that other people have, the one advantage that I can have is I can completely obsess about one thing, work on it every single day to get every part of it working to its very best. And that could be my edge. So I'm really pushing on that because I don't have the advantages that some of these guys have, right? So that's all I focus about every day. If I can work, if my missus will let me work on the weekend, she goes away, I'm off to the office. Like, that's like fun for me. Like, people ask, what hobbies do you have? None. I just work. That's it, because I love it as well. So, and I'm the kind of person that will go on for a long period of time. So that's kind of answering that question. Can you remind me what the first question was?
Yeah, so I thought you would say that, and then it's at odds with your partners, right, who have multiple ventures. So how does that kind of balance?
Yeah, but okay. So I mean, when it comes to the partners, right? What is the overall goal? is the thing you have to ask yourself. So like with the partners, okay, we just want to grow the brand by this amount. Are you in line with that? Yeah, okay, right. So what we're going to do is we're going to reward you in terms of shares in the business when we hit these milestones. I don't care how we get there. If we get there as a company, we get there as a company. If they spend every hour of the day working with us and we don't get there, I don't really care. If they spend one day a month working with us, but we get there, right? And there's two types of people that you're gonna have, right? So there's these exceptional people that have many things going for them, that are constantly testing, that have constantly new innovative ideas, right? And you need them, but they are not going to be your day to day. You need them, and then you need on the other side those who are going to just do the work. I mean, they're going to have the energy, the enthusiasm. So I'm going to be those who I've just been working with this kid that's finishing uni, going to be an investment banker, absolute killer, right? You give him a job with some unanswered questions, he'll figure the rest out, right? And you need that. And when you have these two sides, right? So like, so you have these who are, it's not about age, but they're kind of, they've hit so much success,
It's kind of
right?
like Messi, right? You don't expect him to track back. He just comes on, does his moment of magic, and you just kind of
Yeah,
leave that to him.
and the benefits as well is this group of people are going to give back to these guys as well, and they're going to be growing and developing, and these guys are going to lap it in because they're getting all these insights from these guys on the other side, right? So they're going to be asked questions they would have never thought to ask because the strategists that have been brought in have such a higher knowledge base. So with the strategists, I always say to them, look, and this is the big thing I have to explain to the team, and I have to say to them, you are different to them, right? You're our day in, day out, right? Don't try and compare them to employee. Don't say, oh, why are they not working for? Because they're not. In their contract, there's no set hours, but there is for you. You need to work these as a minimum until the job gets done. What they're bringing success in brands that we've never seen. You haven't done it. I haven't done it with an ecom brand. So that's what they have, right? And that's where they get compensated the way they get compensated. And that's why they got what they got. So just making that very, very clear and say, look, we're a team here, and I'm trying to bring our game up as a whole. If they come in and they do what they say they're going to do, we're all going to win. So it's just trying to get people's mindset to shift in that direction.
Super helpful. Before I round this up, I want to end with a question on AI. And I want this to be kind of non Amazon specific. And I just want to know, if you are, how you're using kind of AI and what tools you are in your personal life. And then just for kind of general business stuff, but not kind of the Amazon
I
specific.
mean, the obvious one is ChatGPT, right? So I literally, if I've got a long drive somewhere, I would just be ranting. So I'll have the voice version of the ChatGPT app, and I'll be asking it about I got a bed sheet that's too big to go in my washing machine. How can I get it sorted? Or my girlfriend asked me a really difficult question, and I don't know how to sort that out. Or I've had this HR dispute with a member of the team. What can I do? And I would just go from one to the other and just be asking AI loads of questions. So that's been really, really helpful. Um, I've been messing. I think I mentioned it to you. I've been messing with Manus AI for the last few days. That's been really interesting. I've really enjoyed that. So I've been kind of like, if I have to do anything, any research, I just be like, just figure out, like, just have a look, and it will go way beyond what you ask it to. It will really thoroughly give you answers, and then you can even put it on a website for you if you want. Just say, hey, here's a website of all the options that you have available to you. So I've been messing with Manus. I've just started messing with Swan, and that's a complete AI agent. It's probably one of the most sophisticated ones I've seen, where it basically finds whoever's been on your website, finds their LinkedIn profile, and then automatically reaches out from your LinkedIn. And all you got to do with that platform is just chat to it on Slack. Says, is this a good lead? Yeah, go and reach out to them. And I go, yeah, fine. I'm going to reach out with them with this message. Is that all right? And the message it comes back with is incredible. And it's like, yeah, that's great. Just send it over. And then it just sends it over for approval, and it will learn. And I think the big thing I'm doing now, Jordan, with this space in the AI space, like my biggest strategy, if someone asks me, well, how can I keep on top of all of this, is just be curious. Like be curious. Like I've on Friday, I shut Instagram off. So early last week I shut Instagram off, right? Because I was spending 3 or 4 hours just scrolling through Instagram, right? So I thought, right, I'm just gonna shut that off, right? And now the only social platform I have on my phone I can go on is LinkedIn. So all I've done, I've just followed a bunch of people on AI and a bunch of people on Amazon, and dude, the amount of stuff that just comes and comes and comes. And the way I found Swan is someone put a post about them saying that I think they've raised over 30 million in VC money, and they're organically growing like crazy with no advertising, no nothing. I was like, right, they must be doing something right. They must be doing something well with their customers, and have kind of reached out and trying it out. So that's kind of what I'd recommend for most people who want to try
Well,
this out.
very valuable. Thank you for sharing. George, it has been a pleasure talking to you. Where can people follow you if they want to kind of get in touch or follow along with what you're up to?
Oh yeah, so well, thank you for having me. And so I mean, LinkedIn's probably the best way. So George Meressa, my last name is Meressa. Um, there's like very few people have that. So like organically, if you just search for me, it will come up. My website is clearadsagency.com. So clearadsagency.com. But if you search my name, then you'll get everything else from there.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for coming on, George. It was a
No
pleasure.
worries.
Pleasure speaking to you.
Likewise.
Scaling an ecom brand is hard. That's why we're on a mission to share as much info as we can to help make it easy. From weekly interviews with the biggest names in the space, to case studies, brand breakdowns, and tips and tricks, and much, much more. Subscribe so you don't miss out.